here's one of my big professional goals: engaging clinicians in improvement science and learning. And this seems very hard most of the time. And on the next slide, you'll see why this is. And I'm going to go through these very briefly. Even though we say we're all about improvement, we're really about old style punitive QA a lot of the time. So quality assurance, the NHS is really aces at this. I mean, you guys really know how to inspect people and punish them if they're not up to standard. And we do the same thing in the US with a lot of pay for performance type of programs. So it's hard for me to argue that it's all about just improving and learning when people are being paid or not paid, or punished or not punished based on performance. We tend to talk too much about kind of the religious aspects of quality improvement. We talk a lot about Toyota and the kind of almost mystical way in which you have to imbibe quality improvement and use certain terminology, and that doesn't go over well. For example, we use the term profound knowledge, which comes from Edward Deming, one of the great founders of quality improvement and improvement science. But when I go up to my clinician colleagues and say, I'm going to teach you profound science, the profound knowledge, that's seen as arrogant and off-putting. We tend to focus on non-clinical processes and outcomes. A urologist who does prostate surgery may actually care about waiting times in the clinic, but more likely he or she cares about whether the patient with cancer in the prostate has the cancer extirpated, whether they're going to be able to have sex, and whether they're going to leak urine or not. So if you don't relate to clinicians about things that matter clinically to them, you're not going to get very far. We often try and do QI by the book. We're all going to sit down at noon and make a process flow diagram. It's going to take 3 hours, but it's really, really important. I've learned that if I want to do that, I go to the operating theater at 5 in the morning and have cold coffee with the surgeons and find out what they think the process is. And then I translate that rather than asking them to be part of some process they can't possibly do. We're not upfront about the fiscal agenda. We always say, or tend to say, quality is free, quality is not free. There's still a pretty good sense that if you really improve quality a lot and improve efficiency, in the end you save money. But in the meanwhile, it takes time, resource, and money to do this work, and it's hard for people actually at the front line to see the future over the horizon, especially since their leaders have a 1-year fiscal time frame. I know in the NHS, with the rapid turnover of chief execs, it's in part because the time horizon and the pressure to perform is so great. We don't tend to provide clinicians with the data they need to improve. I don't know what it's like there on an everyday basis, but yes, I do. I know that at Great Ormond Street, for example, there was no electronic medical record for a while, and getting data that was relevant to the improvement teams were trying to do was really hard. And I'm sure that's true in a lot of settings in the NHS. And we don't emphasize the academic potential, and that's why I showed that first slide to say if you do it well, you can actually get promoted on this in this field. Next, please.